We're here today with John Gideon from General Pest Control to look at a place in Cleveland where there seems to be a severe problem with pigeons. And John, what is the problem in this structure and why is it a problem for the property owner?
Okay. Pigeons in an urban environment can cause a couple of problems. First of all is just plain damage. The droppings from pigeons are very acidic and they can cause permanent staining and damage on siding and even on hard metal objects. The droppings have been known just to etch them. That's how acid-based they are. Plus it's just plain unsightly, as they can see on the stairs going up where the pigeon droppings have accumulated. Now, damage is one issue. The other problem with pigeons is the health hazards that they have the potential to cause in humans. There's a number of diseases that are easily spread from birds to man. Some of them are fungal-based diseases, some of them are bacteria-based, and there's even some virus-like diseases that can be spread from birds to man. Probably of most concern is the salmonellosis, which is a bacteria-type agent that comes from the fecal matter of the birds. Pigeons have a habit of actually nesting in their own waste, and they construct their nests out of their waste and the twigs that they bring in, and then this bird flies off and can walk across a table and it'll spread bacteria there. And that's a health hazard to people.
So it will spread the bacteria wherever they're nesting or feeding to eat. That's a possibility.
That's correct.
And so pigeons seem to be an urban problem. Are there problems elsewhere as well?
Well, the pigeons are all across the whole United States, both urban and suburban areas. But they're not a native bird, and we should make that point, that pigeons are not native to the United States. They were introduced, and they've adapted very well to our environment. First, they have plenty of food that they could find in cities, just from what is discarded in our trash containers and what people spread out. In the city environment, oftentimes pigeons are the only form of wildlife that some people get to see, and they take a fancy to them. And they'll feed them, and you start feeding the pigeons, you start attracting more. And a couple of pigeons might look nice, but a couple of hundred in the wrong place is a potential health hazard.
Well, and I surmise that's why the Cleveland City Council passed an ordinance that prohibits feeding of pigeons in public areas. And there's also an ordinance that prohibits harboring pigeons on one's property, feeding them because of the nuisance that it causes. But many times people don't feed pigeons but find that pigeons have selected their home or their building to make a home. And what does the property owner and homeowner do in that case?
And the important point is that pigeons don't necessarily roost where they're eating. They're out hunting, looking around for food.
How far do they go out to?
They could travel miles away from where they're
right?
roosting in order to find an adequate supply of food and water. And at the same token, then they'll go look for a place to live. And if they can find an abandoned building, an attic where there's a broken window and they can fly in, it's a perfect place to roost, such as what we had in this particular case. They'll also nest on window ledges, on statues around churches, any place they can get a protected area out of the wind and out of the elements. They don't always have to be inside. They can actually nest and roost on the outside of buildings.
Well, we're going to be later on in the program looking at some of the methods to pigeon-proof properties, such as barriers and, if that fails, trapping of the pigeons. Are there some other things that property owners need to be aware of as far as pigeons and pigeon control? For instance, keep an eye on the feeding around their property or keeping food off. How do you protect yourself from having pigeons select your home?
It's in the city environment, it sometimes can be difficult. Somebody with all the best intentions can put out bird seed for the small birds and the songbirds that hang around here, especially in the wintertime. And it doesn't take too long for the pigeons to find it and sort of move in. And once they learn that they can get a free meal, more of them start coming in. For the homeowner to watch, they just want to make sure that they don't have conditions on the outside of their house that is conducive to pigeons. Make sure the attic windows are closed and there's no broken windows in the attic. Ledges that are suitable for pigeons should be protected with some kind of screening or other product that deters them from landing on there. Now, you don't have to do that on every ledge, but you just have to be mindful that if you start seeing pigeons hanging around your house, you should take those steps. And I think later on we'll show some of the easy things that homeowners can do to protect their houses against pigeons.
John, my grandfather used to raise pigeons on East 43rd Street, and he had a pigeon coop, and there is allowance in the ordinance for people to raise pigeons. You have to pay $2 for a license, have to have them banded. Are these the type of pigeons that we're talking about that people raise as homing or carrier pigeons, or are they all the same?
Okay. These are feral pigeons, meaning wild pigeons.
I see.
The homing pigeons are bred especially for homing pigeons. There's quite a bit of similarity between the birds, but the homing pigeons are bred specifically for that. And people who do raise pigeons, and if your grandfather did, I'll tell you, my father, when he was a child, he raised pigeons in the lower Denison Avenue area and had the homing birds. And you take care of the birds, you inoculate them to prevent the diseases, you clean up the cages or the call it hutch where the pigeons or the birds live, and maintain that in good condition, and they're good animals to keep.
And allowed for with the Cleveland codified ordinances. However, if pigeons on their own decide to move into your property and you don't take care of it, you can end up in housing court. And the whole reason for this series is to help people, give them the skills that they need to decide if they can take care of the problem themselves or if they need to call in a professional such as yourself. Is this a job that a property owner can tackle themselves, trying to repel the pigeons or make their property pigeon-proof?
In many cases, it is something you can do on your own. The first step is cleaning up the mess that the pigeons have left behind. And if you are going to tackle that, if you're going to try and clean up the droppings and remove the nesting material, it's wise to take some preventative measures to protect yourself. And some of the common things you should do to protect yourself are have something to cover your head to keep the dust and the dirt from flying into your hair, a respirator or a small dust mask that's worn to keep the dust particles from being inhaled. You want to keep the excess dust out of your eyes, and goggles or some way to protect your eyes are very important. And also in handling the material, a pair of gloves, good solid gloves, so that as you're digging in and removing and cleaning up the surfaces, you're not getting any of the fecal material and other nesting materials onto your hands.
So it's the fecal material and the dust that causes the health problems. Is there anything that you can use, such as an antibacterial spray, to put on that before you clean it up, or do you just elbow grease?
It's a little bit of both. We find that using some of the common household disinfectants, a Lysol type product is fine. That disinfects and cleans the surface. But in addition to the germs or the fungus and bacteria you have to be concerned about, there's also a lot of ectoparasites, fancy word for bugs. Pigeons have lice, pigeons have their own form of bugs that infest their bodies. There can even be fleas living off of pigeon nests, and those ectoparasites have to be taken care of with insecticides. So it's a combination of both disinfectant and insecticide, treating the surfaces both before and after the cleanup is done to make sure that you don't have problems into the house.
Now, of course, the problem is compounded because pigeons typically do not roost or nest on lower areas. They're up at least 1, 2, maybe 3 stories high. So the property owner has to be able to get up to the area to clean it off, and that involves a ladder or some type of scaffolding.
Certainly the birds find the areas that are hard for us to get at. And if you're at all uneasy about working on a ladder, then it's wise to let somebody else get up there onto the roofs, because you can be up there trying to remove the birds and they fly at you suddenly, or they don't like what you're doing, and they'll come and buzz at you and dive bomb you a little bit. And if you're uneasy on a ladder, you may get the pigeon problem solved, but you don't want to end up in the hospital with a broken
Next, we're going to talk with Jim Gilbert about some specific things that property owners can do and tools that they can use to abate the nuisance of pigeons. We're here with Jim Gilbert, who has brought a virtual arsenal of tools that he uses against the urban pigeon infestation problem. Jim, maybe you can explain some of the things that you've brought here and how effective they are.
Okay, let's first start with the netting actually that you're holding in your hand.
Okay.
The netting can be used in order to block a pigeon from going into certain areas, either a large expanse. This can cover anywhere from 100 feet by 100 feet down to this small piece here being stretched out and put into an area where a pigeon's making access. Another...
well, Jim, I've seen this used up in eaves in particularly. Now, this has certain holes. Can insects get through here and make nests in here?
Insects can penetrate through the netting. With netting, this is actually a larger size net, which will unfortunately allow sparrows and starlings in order to get through. But this netting, which is obviously has smaller holes, won't allow starlings and sparrows through. It can be applied the same way as the large netting here, with a series of cable and rings, metal rings to hold it on to the
Is this
surface.
Commercially available? Can a homeowner go and purchase this somewhere?
It is commercially available, and it is also able to be bought by the homeowner. There are cheaper, less expensive grades of this. This particular netting is more of a professional use, a little bit more expensive. It's ultraviolet light, stable, also it has more resilient.
I see. So you'd only have to put it up once and it'll last for
a very long time. Yep.
Okay.
Other products that actually when we talk about encasing the birds out, we also have hardware cloth, and this is actually a fine hardware cloth. With hardware cloth, which is a screening, you could use this. It's more pliable. You can actually bend it ahead of time or make it so that it fits into the void. This comes in a smaller mesh and a larger mesh. It's comparable to chicken wire. Chicken wire has a tendency, in order to fail, though, you want to make sure that when you use a product, you want to have it stay there. You don't want to, chicken wire has a tendency in order to break up.
And I think it rusts more readily than this hardware cloth. The only problem with this hardware cloth is that you have to wear gloves. I know I've used this and my hands have been cut up completely by
you have to be careful.
This, yes.
And you can actually take, and I have another roll of hardware cloth where I've actually pre-painted it, so you can actually paint it in order to make it so it's not as noticeable when you put it up.
Okay, and so it matches the house and it doesn't jump out at you.
And that's actually the best way in order to keep birds out of an area is to go and box them out of the area. The next best thing is to put to stop them from setting or roosting on an area. We're going to look at a few different ledge products. Here's just a quick sampling of things that we have, devices.
This looks like a Rube Goldberg device here.
Yeah, it's actually I call it the Slinky device, but it's actually called a coil device.
Now this isn't electrically charged.
It's not electrically charged. The whole principle behind it is actually to have, when the birds fly down, they don't like to have the feel of not being able to land.
They want a firm footing.
They want a firm footing, and this will stop. You can put this in one row, and again, this can continue on for hundreds, thousands of feet if you want on a ledge area.
Is this expensive?
This is, I don't know how much per foot it is, comparable to other products that we're going to look at.
All right.
As far as expensive, well, with a high end, you're looking at the prong devices. Again, we have some different prong devices here. This is for a very large or wide surface. This is for a much narrower surface. These here, which is a little bit more pliable but are sharper. This is called these are called bird flight. This is called nixolite.
Well, and you can see that in some cases the bird's feathers are still on this. These are used ones, but I've seen on these pronged ones where the birds have dropped sticks and have made nests out of them.
Yeah, in fact,
and I
there's
think that was it, yeah.
one stick there.
Right.
With these devices, you do need to make sure that you get in there with a brush or even a screwdriver or something in order to pull the sticks out. And it's actually a maintenance situation where even though you put these up, there is maintenance in order that you have to be done on.
Well, when you're 25 foot off the ground, it's a little difficult. So there might maybe the netting is better in that circumstance.
Netting, or the hardware cloth, or that is very good. So those are the most expensive, actually, with the prong things, prong devices, and then the next expensive actually would be this device. Depending on, again, as far as labor, this is a lot easier than than a lot of other products, but
and these are humane ways. These don't hurt the bird. They just cause an insecurity in the bird, and they won't land or perch in those places.
And also it's relatively safe for humans or other animals. If a human is going to paint his house or her house and puts their hand on this, there's no danger of being actually punctured or poked with this device.
But with the more pointed ones, there could be.
And there's another device is actually post and wire, and this can be put into a surface, or even there's plastic mounts that you can adhere to a building. And again, this can go for hundreds of feet to hundreds of yards, or just a short area.
It's a tripwire in a sense, right?
Well, actually, it's a spring device where the birds actually go to, again, the idea of not feeling comfortable with the footing. And if you look, it actually goes different heights. You want to stagger your heights and all that.
I see. So they're if they don't land here, they try to attempt to land here.
Lower
they
or high.
They can't, and they'll go somewhere else where they can land.
And these are deterrent devices. Another deterrent device ability is on a gutter. A lot of times you'll notice pigeons will sit on a gutter and defecate over the side.
Yes.
Well, this is a gutter device where, again, you can buy, at least from our company, to stop the birds from resting on the gutter and actually creating a problem below it.
Now, does this cause a problem for the homeowner who goes up to clean their gutter? I guess you have to take those off, right?
This particular device, you would have to actually work around that, and they relatively clamp on and off pretty easily. Now, again, that's a little...
And I've seen the pigeons sitting on the gutter. Not only do they defecate down, but in the gutter, and of course then that causes the gutter to be stopped up trees and various other things growing in the gutter.
Right, and then backup of water, and actually that produces a whole quandary of other problems with damage to the house and possible insects even. Another product is it's a bird repellent. It's actually it's a sticky repellent.
Now, I've seen repellent, some of it tanglefoot, some called roost no more, and yours is called bird repellent.
Right, actually it's actually for the birds, translucent bird repellent is what it is.
That's a brand name.
It's a brand name.
What does a tube of that cost?
$6.60 plus tax. So
all right.
it's an okay device. It's the least expensive. There's negatives and positives to everything. The negative of this is that because it's sticky, if you have any type of tree litter or anything like that it'll fall onto the surface, and actually it'll be gummed up real fast.
Well, I've seen the pigeons dump sticks and things on top of it in order to
try
to make it useless, I guess.
Right.
And how intelligent are those pigeons? They seem pretty...
They're survivors. I mean, just they're part of the animal kingdom. They want to survive. They want to reproduce. They want to live on themselves.
And that's why they've been so successful in an urban environment.
Right.
That they are survivors. And this bird repellent, is it toxic to the pigeons?
No, it's not toxic. It's more the birds go to they want to land on the area that they're going to be roosting or sitting on, and
it's a sticky substance that they feel, they actually sit on it or go to rest on it, and ooh, it's not very comfortable for them.
So it's again that comfort level.
Right.
Now it only lasts for a short period of time before you have to use it. Now it's been most effective, I found, on my fence for the young men who like to climb over my fence. And it's not toxic, and they don't like this sticky feeling on their hands.
Yeah, it's in order to, obviously you want to follow the directions per the label, but it's very difficult in order to just use hot water and soap in order to get it off. They actually have to use a
thinner
type material
to get off. So it works not only for pigeons but for other urban nuisances.
With the application of this, I have some shingles here. With application, you apply it in a bead fashion, and it goes on.
How far apart are those beads?
Again, you follow the label. I think it says somewhere around 2 inches.
And will it stain the shingle?
Yes, it'll cause some type of staining. What I suggest is that you actually put it on top of a device, such as a shingle turned upside down, to put it into an area. That way, it could be removed if wanted. Obviously, you want to use some type of tacking material, in order to hold it on to the area. Either put a nail with that has some type of caulking. You don't want to cause any type of leaking or anything like that. Why create another problem with when you're trying to solve another? This is kind of stiff because
well, it's cold. It's cold
really
today.
Relatively
in fact,
cold today.
We're doing this on the coldest day of the year thus far, but it still seems to be coming out. But of course, the warmer it is, the more it
happens to be the shortest. It
is the shortest day as well. Okay.
So.
Now, once you've tried to repel them and make life uncomfortable for them, and if that fails, what are some of the next steps?
Well, some other things that you can do. You can either do them afterwards or before or even during. And those are to trap the birds. Trapping the birds is done by using a box trap type situation where it has a one-way door. The pigeons will then go into the one-way door, and they'll be caught inside.
Jim, maybe you could outline for us some of the places that pigeons love to nest and roost, and of course where they cause much of the damage.
Birds love, if we can look up here at this wonderful house, love to have, these are called gables on either side of the
dormer?
Dormer, right. Inside there, actually, if you look really hard, I think we can see a pigeon up into that seeking shelter. They love to go into where two roofs meet together in that valley area. Another thing that they like is they like to have the downpipe of a gutter system to at least sit on and sometimes to warm themselves or at least to get out of the weather.
And that's a place where you'd put those prongs.
The prong things actually could be adhered to that or tie wrapped onto that or even wired.
Or also that caulk that would go on there.
Right. You could actually use silicone caulking in order to adhere the prongs on, or you could even use like your the for the birds or the sticky foot or the hot foot type product onto that that area.
So that'd be effective. Now, to get up there, of course, you're going to need extension ladders and everything. So once you're up there, you want to make sure that what you put up there is going to be a more permanent solution.
Right.
Now, on this particular house, there were 18 nests that the pigeons had established over a course of years. And of course, one generation led to the next, to the next. And
the homeowner really has his hands full.
And in the last 8 months or so, the homeowner chose to trap here, and there was 60-some pigeons, I believe, that were trapped out of this home. There's still a few left. But that's where that concept of, pigeon pressure? Pigeon pressure. Could you explain what pigeon pressure is?
Pigeon pressure is where you have a amount of pigeons. Now, if you have a small amount of pigeons, you have obviously light pressure. If you have, and that small amount of pigeons get used to the home or the building that they're on, then their young likes to go back and get into the same exact area where they were raised. So you have more and more pressure of pigeons living in a smaller enclosed area, or a smaller area.
They're like many of us who grew up in Cleveland's neighborhoods. You know,
Right.
we'd like to stick around our own neighborhood and
so it becomes more and more
expand.
crowded, right?
Although some pigeons may have moved to the suburbs, have they?
Yes, pigeons have been known in order to, if you pardon the pun, spread their wings in order to try to find another place.
Because they couldn't find suitable housing in their own neighborhood, so then they move on.
Move on.
Are these upscale pigeons?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen any with ties and stuff like that, but I have known them to seen them in places like it's Rocky River, Bay Village. You know, they drink the same water, I think, as the younger the other pigeons. But pigeon pressure basically deals with having pigeons within an area that are competing for roosting areas. Okay, if you remove the resident pigeons, the ones that are right there, then sometimes you can actually alleviate the problem unless the harborage area is so enjoyable or is more preferred by other pigeons. Also, the defecation caused by pigeons into an area, when you do exclusion, you want to try to clean that material up the best you possibly can.
And what do you clean that with? How do you clean it? And I know that you have to use a disinfectant in
right.
some ways.
Well, what you would do is that you would use, first, you want to be safe. You want to be very safe when you're cleaning up any type of debris. And you know, we'll cover that at another time, or we've already covered it. When you're you wear a mask. A dust mask is just fine, because the dust that you're producing by scraping, just using a putty knife or a plain paint knife, will be able to remove the debris. And then you would go and you would take a steel, sometimes a steel brush is needed on different surfaces, and then taking a disinfectant and even wiping down the area that's affected, covering over the odor with paint even, in order to stop them from
and that
being
seals
there.
it in.
And
And because they're attracted to that odor, where there's fecal matter, they're attracted and feel comfortable in that environment.
Right.
Is that right?
Hey, other pigeons have lived here before. If a pigeon could talk, this is what they would probably say. And they are. It's an okay place to be.
Okay, good. Well, these are some important tips and ideas about pigeons, and of course it's a case of not just running out in all directions. You plan your work and work your plan, and you should be able to pigeon-proof your property and prevent the nuisance of pigeons residing in your home.